how do you even define a perfume? And maybe a little bit of history on where perfumes came from.
Yeah. So I'm not like the most best resource for like historical info about perfumes, but I think perfume making has been a part of the human kind of, I don't know, human history for the longest time, right? I think like the oldest perfumes, you have perfumes that they found in ancient Egypt and Indus Valley and things like that. I think perfume making has been really a part of like human culture. I mean, two out of the three gifts that Jesus got were like perfume related, right? Incense and frankincense and myrrh. So I mean, for some reason, humans don't want to smell bad, I guess. So
Yeah, great.
they've been trying to kind of hide their malodors and smell exotic and smell luxurious and things like that. Here in India, I think, we have a very rich history of perfumes, like with our attar making, which comes from the Mughal times. And that's one of the interesting things, I think, whenever I speak to people, it's when they think of perfumes, they think of it as this like luxury, fine fragrance thing. But fragrance really permeates all parts of our life, right? When we look at the perfume industry, like the cheapest form of perfume is the agarbatti, which is such an important part of Indian culture. And even like in people who cannot afford a lot of money, they still want to have a good, powerful, nice smelling agarbatti in their house, and everyone has their own particular one that they want to kind of use. So fragrance is a very important part of everyone's culture, DNA, and it kind of defines who they are. So yeah, I'm very lucky to be a part of it.
Also, one of the most interesting sensory experiences, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not only about perfumes. Agarbatti is a great example. I actually never thought of that, but yeah, that's again just fragrance. And even in our food, fragrance is such an important part.
Yeah, everything. So like if we look at the perfume industry, we kind of break it down into two verticals. It's fine fragrance is what we see in all the fancy shops and Bombay Perfumery or duty free or whatever. And then we have this whole big section which is called functional perfumery. And it goes on everything, right? Any like your bathroom products, deodorant, soap, shampoo, anything. Like we have projects for our family firm where we are trying to fragrance malodors which are coming out of plastic manufacturing, like gas leaks. Whenever they use perfume to so that you can smell the gas so it leaks. So not so interesting for your audience probably, but in general, perfume smell is a big part of our lives. And perfumers love to say this, that smell is one of the only things which lets you transport yourself in time and space immediately. And I know a lot of people kind of disagree with that, because people say food will do that, or people say music does that. But it's definitely true, right? Sometimes you smell something and it suddenly transports you back to something a perfume your grandmother used to wear, or a holiday you took by the sea 10 years ago. Suddenly you get a little sea smell. So, it has a very strong sensory and a very strong impact on one's.
In fact, even with, let's say, wine tasting or something, right? The smell is so important. And you'll say, oh, this smells like my grandmom's closet, which I don't know how your grandmom's closet smelled. But you definitely can't taste it, but you remember the smell.
Right. And I think I've seen a lot of these food things, experiments where they blindfold you, and you can still, because of how you smell the food, your taste kind of changes and things like that if you can't see how it is.
Cool. Let's get into fine perfumes. That side of things then. What is a fine perfume, and how do you even get to create one?
So perfumes are high level made, kind of created or designed by perfumers. And in a very basic term, a perfume is just a mixture of various essential oils, some natural extracts, some aroma molecules, mixed together in a way which kind of makes it a complex, but also a linear, well-rounded olfactive journey, so to speak. So everyone has heard of essential oils and how they are made. And when you smell an essential oil, it is fairly complex in itself, that it has not just a single rosy character. It will have a little rosy, little metallic, or whatever it is. But where we take those essential oils and then we kind of amalgamate them together to make a fine fragrance, which is a very well-rounded. So it has multiple layers to it. So it's when we use it, you have a journey, right? When you smell it immediately, how you smells in the beginning is not how it smells in the end. And the kind of job of a perfumer is to make that olfactive journey interesting, but also for it to make sense. So it shouldn't be the start and the end aren't well balanced together. Making it making it itself, it's fairly straightforward. You take your ingredients that you've chosen in the right combination and you mix them together. There's not that much technical stuff behind it, but the most important part is the ingredients that you choose and the balance and the balance of the formulation. That's where is kind of the big game, basically.
What are the kind of classifications you have in perfumes?
So that's a big thing that people ask us. Whenever you go to a perfume shop, duty free, you'll see this thing called eau de parfum or eau de toilette, EDT. And like a lot of people ask us, what's the difference? At a very high level, so to break it down, a perfume has two components. One is your fragrance compound, concentrate, what we call it. And then you use alcohol to dilute it. And the alcohol is what diffuses it into the environment. So when you wear it, it spreads to the person sitting next to you. It leaves a sillage, is what we call it, leaves a trail when you walk. So when a beautiful girl walks past you and the trail of a fragrance is left behind, that's what we call a sillage. And alcohol is what kind of helps you do that. So coming back to your question, when you see a perfume which says eau de toilette, which is EDT, that's a categorization to explain how much perfume and how much alcohol is there. So there are a few kinds. Starting from the lowest is what we call the EDC or the eau de cologne, which has 5% perfume and 95% alcohol. Then you have EDT, which is eau de toilette, which is 10%-ish perfume and 90% alcohol. And then you have these things called eau de parfum, which Bombay Perfumery, all our products are EDPs, which are 20 to 22% fragrance and 80% alcohol. So it's just the concentrate of the fragrant part of that composition.
So this will define the price points, I assume, and how long it lasts?
Longevity, how long it lasts. I think that's the two big things. And certain ingredients, because of just the way they are, like their molecular structure, the way it is, you probably need higher doses of it for it to create an impact.
And is there some merit to, is there a bigger use case for one of this over the other?
I think it's a little bit of it is kind of marketing, frankly speaking. You can construct a very interesting eau de cologne also, which smells very refreshing and is not everything needs to. So the barometer, unfortunately, a lot of people use is that, my perfume lasted a long time, so it must be good, or so it must be expensive, or so it must be niche. I think it's kind of silly. The point is that that olfactive journey needs to be interesting, right? And if you use, for example, a lot of citrus kind of notes is what we find a lot in colognes. Molecularly speaking, citrus notes dissipate into the environment very fast. So because of that, EDC might not last that long, but that doesn't mean it's a cheap perfume or it's not a good perfume. Pure bergamot oil is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it's a little bit of a marketing thing where people say, mera 10-12 ghanta chala my perfume. Yeah. But it's kind of, I don't buy that notion.